Hi, I'm Devin from Careerified. Welcome back to my home office and welcome back to our post-secondary exploration series for October 2020. This week, I'm going to be talking a little bit about something that I have mentioned on this channel before, but I think it bears repeating because you're at a pretty important phase of exploration. And yeah, so I'm just going to dive right in. Here it is. University is not the only option you have after high school. That's right. I said it. There is this prevailing assumption that you need to have a university degree in order to get pretty much any job out there. That's not true. There's also a prevailing assumption that everybody, we'll put that in air quotes, everybody goes to university. In the 2016 census, 28.5% of Canadian adults indicated that they had obtained a bachelor's degree or higher. 28.5%. That's less than 1/3 of all Canadians who have actually been to university and successfully completed it. Now, let me share a few other facts with you just to broaden your perspective a little bit on this. In Ontario, first off, university tuition is more than double the cost of college tuition. In fact, it's almost 3 times as much. Number 2, if you are in the apprenticeship pathway, they, in fact, pay you to do your learning because, of course, the majority of it takes place in the workplace. For those times you're in school, fees are about $400 to take your in-class training, which is obviously super cheap, comparatively speaking. But to add to that, the provincial government announced just a few weeks ago, actually, quite a lot of supports for apprenticeship training. So they're putting something like $75 million into the system to upgrade facilities, to help instructors improve their, teaching skills. But a lot of that is also going to help apprentices with living expenses, with purchasing supplies like tools and safety gear. So that $400 price tag might actually go down as well. 3. About 14% of students who begin a university program will drop out in their first year, and overall about 16% will not complete undergraduate studies. And 4th and lastly, when you pursue the university pathway, that almost always means you're going to be moving away from home. And this is simply a function of how many universities there are versus how many colleges and apprenticeship training centers. If you're in the college or apprenticeship pathways, or certainly if you go workplace or take a gap year, you have a higher chance, so we're looking for a chance, you have a higher chance of being able to pursue those routes while not having to take on the additional living expenses of moving away from home. Before I go any further, I should probably point out, I don't have a problem with university. I find when I get into these conversations, that's sort of where it ends up steering, where it sounds like I'm totally anti-university. I'm not. I'm a massive supporter of all types of education. And more to the point, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. So I definitely have no problem with a pathway for the right person. And that's really what it comes down to. I think it's important when you're exploring to explore every option that's open to you. And the reason for that is simply because my work revolves around working with people who have made a pathway choice that they regret. I have worked with people who have withdrawn from post-secondary studies because they hated their program. I have worked with people who have failed out of university on numerous occasions, meaning I have worked with people on numerous occasions, not that they failed out on numerous occasions. And I've worked with people who may have gone all the way, they finished the program, but because they have absolutely no idea where they want to go with their career after that, they feel like they've made a huge mistake. I can't say this for sure, but I do think that in a lot of cases, it's the expense of university education that makes people feel like they've made this uncorrectable error, and that ties to this very deep sense of regret. So I think exploring your options is really, really important. So my tip for this week is really humor me. Go take a look around, find out what options actually exist for you instead of assuming that university is the catch-all. For that career you want to pursue, do you absolutely need a degree to get started? Or is that something you could obtain later? Maybe perhaps when an employer is helping you pay for tuition, that would be all right. Or is there a university program that you're considering where you have the option of starting in a college program something close to home, you maybe can work and build up some of your savings and then transfer into that university program later. And there are tons of other options to look at as well. My point here is really to say that there's an excellent chance that you are going to make a career change at some point, that you're going to maybe even jump industries at some point. So assuming that the choice that you make directly out of high school is going to be the last one that you make doesn't make much sense. So try thinking about it in this way. What would you choose if you knew it was only step one of a pathway to lifelong learning? I'm going to let you chew on that. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you back here next week for a new tip. You take good care.